So good evening, everybody. How are you? Thank you so much for taking this time to join us. I'm here with my good friends, Bill Gutteen and Kimmie Nguyen. Yes.
Hello.
And they are the founders and the partners, co-founders and partners of Dreamvest Capital Management. You've changed it, Dreamvest Capital Management. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so tell us, I don't know who wants to go first. I'll let Kimmie go first.
Yeah,
Uh,
Okay.
he always does.
Give me that sigh of relief, Bill. Tell us about what you do and how it got you in this, because I know you have an amazing story. So just give us a short story about how you got into what you're doing now,
Um,
your background.
so I'm a real estate agent. So I got my real estate license in 2005. And really, I got started because I bought my first house in 2000 and the market was like continued to go up. And I was like, oh, maybe I need to get into real estate, right? And it took me like 3 or 4 years to finally get my license. And then when I got my license, the market was going down, right? So I actually moved to Sacramento, and that's when I started my real estate endeavor. But I really wanted to get into the investment game. But at the time, I already have some investment property. So in 2008, when the market tanked, okay, I had to do foreclosure and short sale my home because there's no cash flow to cover for the negative rent that I'm not collecting. And then fast forward in 2008, when the financial market, the financial crisis, I was helping a lot of investors in the market, and they're not buying one property, right? They're buying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 properties. And that's when I actually get a taste of what a true investor was looking at and how they're buying. And I felt the market was bottom already. I want to go back and buy, right? So I needed help to do that because my credit was shot. I have very little money that's remaining. So I actually went back and started purchasing. And I think I got tapped out after 3 or 4 properties. And I was sitting on the sideline and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, every time I go see a property and putting an offer for my investor, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to buy, but I can't. Okay. So I sat on the sideline for 4 years. And then that's when I met up with Bill and I started getting more into the investment arena. And I started, slowly learning to raise capital, structure deal, and put them together. And maybe 6 years ago, that's when I started to figure out I don't want to be in a single family space. I want to move toward the multi-family space. And then that's when we start doing that. And then 4 years ago, when Bill and I decided, you know what, there's so many facets in multifamily, it's impossible for us to really focus them all. And so we just decided to focus on the capital, aggregating capital. And so we find operating partners that we bring the capital to deploy the capital to. And so now we are probably in multiple states, have multiple projects, specifically in multifamily. So that's that's the short version of it.
Okay, thank you. And Bill.
Okay, quick thumbnail, I guess. I think I got started like a lot of us probably. One thing we probably all have in common is that we're all education oriented, right? So that's how I got my start as well. Ended up buying a course and a lot of the stuff that's touted back then, and I still think today, is the quick turn stuff. So that's what I did for probably like the first, I don't know, 5 to 8 years or so, until the light bulb went on and I started realizing that, man, if you keep doing the quick turn stuff, it's really just like a job. Okay, you got to keep repeating it. So that light bulb went on and figured out that you really got to start owning some stuff to really gain traction and build wealth in this business, right? So because single family is what I knew, that's what I started stockpiling and did that for a number of years. At one point, we eventually built up, we were in 2 primary areas and we had built up, I don't know, about a little over 150 single family homes in 2 primary areas, right? And so even though that sounds pretty good, the reality is from a long-term rental standpoint, man, it felt like it felt like it took a mini army to run that whole operation.
It
Okay.
probably did.
Yeah. And yeah, man, it did. We had a mini army. You know? It felt like my employees were making more than I was.
They probably were.
Yeah. Yeah. So another light bulb eventually went off, and then I realized, man, I don't think that's the long-term rental game I wanted to be playing. Okay, so that's when we slowly but surely started pivoting out of the single family stuff and more into the multifamily. And we're not anti single family home. Okay, we do other things in that arena, but from a long-term holding brick and mortar stuff, we really like the commercial properties, and also, you know, larger commercial multifamily properties as well. So just slowly but surely started pivoting into that. We think it's really the prized asset class of today and will be for many years to come. And so even though I think I definitely classify as a veteran, 25 plus years in the game, it still feels pretty fresh. It still feels like I'm learning more than I ever have every single day. And so we have a growing portfolio spread across 5 different states now. And we're still doing it, and just still looking to do it on a larger and larger scale. So anyway, that's a little thumbnail of what we do.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So Desiree, let me, I wanted to find out, the audience, what are they looking to get out of attending today's mini webinar?
Well,
So if you can text it, you can put in a chat box and just let us know, and hopefully we can address your questions or answer your questions as we go through this
presentation. So
yeah.
this conversation. So you're going to keep track of the chat box, Kimmie?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So just a little, I think most of you know me, but just to give you a brief background, I'll have to do a thumbnail like Bill did. I've been involved in real estate since 1989. And first I was licensed as an agent, and I was licensed as a broker, and then I've been doing investments and all the different asset classes, which was why real estate has always fascinated me, because I've done you can do the fix and flips, you can do the notes, you can do multi-residential, you can do triple net, you can do, I have not done, but you can do parking lots or storage units, you can do retirement homes. There's so many different asset classes that you can do. And I think it's important for you to learn about all of them, quite honestly. And if you can, experience as much of them as you can, because I think most of you have experience of quite a few different classes. That helps you decide which one you enjoy the most, or which one is going to be best for you at that time. You know, when you're young, got lots of energy and lots of time and money, you can do the fix and flips. And, you know, but as you become more refined, I'll say, in the industry, like Bill, you're getting older, or you decide you want to move up, and you can get into different asset classes. And so right now we found the fact that we love the co-working, co-living, because it's part of my passion. But I want to share how we met. I think I met you, Kimmie, a while ago when I was the chapter president for WREN, Women's Real Estate Network, that we had here in San Diego. And then you and Bill were hosting a mastermind. And the mastermind, I attended the mastermind, and I happened to listen to the testimonial. You guys are talking about me. The webinar the other day, and you said, "Oh, we met Desiree, and Desiree, the numbers." But say what you said, Bill, because
Was I talking about your
number,
math
my
skills,
talent? Yes, my talent of math.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I think that was the one thing that you made very clear, is that you weren't comfortable with the numbers and didn't really like to delve into the math, but somehow, some way, you turned that around.
Yeah, I think she found Jerry. She found Gary.
Gary. See, that's what's good about partnerships. See,
Yeah.
that's another thing they're going to take away from tonight. Whatever, I'm a people person. I love the people. I love the houses, like all of that part of it. But, you know, the other part I'm not so excited about. And so whatever part, find out and determine what part you like about real estate, what areas you like about real estate. And then whatever you're not strong with, then find a partner or associate yourself with somebody who is. And if you're just starting in real estate, then I suggest that you take all this information about syndications or whatever you're referring to, and make sure you partner with somebody else who have had experience. The worst thing is to be able to do something just from the textbook and then make a mistake, and then that totally turns you off from actually being involved in it. And you hear that all the time. Oh, it didn't work for me, or I had this bad experience. And that's because either you didn't have the years and years and years of experience doing it, or you weren't with somebody else who was a veteran that had years of experience. Because some of it you'll just never learn in school. Is that correct, Kimmie and Phil? Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. So you have this program. So we're talking about a mastermind that you had that I attended. It was amazing. And then with that additional knowledge, I had done syndications before, even, whatever, but with that additional knowledge, and with that knowledge brings the self-confidence, I was able to increase, and because your confidence is there, you're able to increase what amount you'll be able to raise. I think we raised almost $800,000 in like 30 days, and that was much more than I had raised sometimes in months. It took me months to raise that. And so, but I did have partners with me. So again, sometimes it doesn't always have to be you. And I did have people that, Gary was helping us with the numbers. So find a team, build a team, and be able to do that. But also get the knowledge. And the reason why I'm going to say that, you're going to hear me say that because I'm a knowledge, person, but there's no industry that you can get into effectively to be without having any kind of training in it, not any knowledge. I don't care whether you're being a veterinarian or whether you're gonna be a barber or whatever. And I think that some of the people that I found think that they can actually go out and start syndicating tomorrow and not have any knowledge about it. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work for them, but it also doesn't work for us, because when they don't have success, then it kind of represents the whole industry as a part. So what are you finding on that? You've had great success with some of the people that have taken your masterminds. Yes.
Okay, what was the question?
The question is that you have people that have taken your masterminds. What have you seen being the difference that after they've taken the mastermind, after they have the knowledge, they're anchored, they're anchored with the knowledge. What has been the difference in their success?
Oh boy, I don't know what I think. Man, I think that's a multi-part answer to that. I think number one, just simply having a system and a methodology. I think most people, when they think of the whole idea of, okay, how am I going to raise capital? It might seem a little bit overwhelming and they don't know where to start. So I think just having a framework that you can go to, just understanding that even if it's a simple thing like a 6-step framework, everything that we do to generate leads, we have a 5-step lead generation program. That's constantly filling the funnel with brand new prospects, right? And it's constantly cultivating and priming people for the time you're ready to actually fund the deal. Okay, so that's a framework. Another framework is like a 7-step process that we have. Like once a deal, you either find a deal or a deal falls into your lap. Okay, what happens next? Well, we have a very specific 7-step framework process of what exactly to do. Once you have a deal that comes into your world, right? So I think that's a big one right there. Just knowing just having a framework and a step-by-step process and knowing what to do, from day one. So that comes to mind. I think a lot of folks show up for that. They just want a system and a process. So would you agree with that, Kimmie? Anything else come to mind for you?
So I go to a lot of mastermind. Not only we have a mastermind, but I go to a lot of mastermind. So every time I attend a mastermind, it just opens your mind up. It expands your mind up. A lot of things we don't know what we don't know. Okay, especially, my family are not business oriented. They don't know real estate. Okay, but when you attend the mastermind, you surrounded yourself with other people who are doing the same thing you are. And when they talk, it's like the first time you hear them, like, huh? Can you do that? And then you hear somebody else say that, oh, it must be possible, right? So for me, the mastermind is just a way for you to be plugged in to people who's doing what you wanted to do. You may not know it all and you will not be able to get it all. But the fact is that you're gonna accumulate over time. Every time you attend, you're gonna get something. And so for me is either having my own mastermind, because there's people that you surround yourself, or attending other people's mastermind. Every time I get out of those things, my mind has just like blow up. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, Desiree.
No, it does. It does. Because what I'm looking at, so we're talking about raising capital, and the capital can be raised for your businesses. It can be raised for a lot of different things, as you see in different crowdfunding platforms, or it can be raised for real estate. Tonight, we focus more on the raising the capital for real estate, and was referred to as syndication. So I'm going to go back to the basics and just share with you, according to Wikipedia, what a definition of syndication is, because I think you mentioned earlier, some people really don't even know what it is. Syndication is the transfer of something for control of management by a group of individuals, or organizations. So.
Okay, so sum it up. This is group investing.
Right.
I know the dictionary is so hard to understand.
Well, it's an organization or combination of investors pulling capital together for investment in real estate. So really, I guess it's just really that simple. So a group of people that invest in real estate. So now that we know that, then what's you talked about, Bill, about the basic thing. So it's a pool of investors. So the first thing you need to do is get a pool of investors, correct? So you have a real estate project, whether again, you said a deal that you find yourself, which is huge, or a deal that falls on you. You also mentioned that once you do this for a while, deals start coming to you, because once people know that you can raise capital for the deal, that it can come to you. We so far have been doing the whole thing. We find the deal, underwrite the deal, raise capital for the deal, manage the managers that manage the deal, and then exit the deal, and be able to go on from there. So, but from the very beginning, to find a deal, I think everybody knows what that is. It's not a good deal. A deal that has what would you qualify as a good deal, Bill? What are some of the things that you look for in your deals?
A good deal. It really depends on how you're structuring it. If you're talking about a syndication, and the type of syndication you're wanting to put together too. So, right, a good deal for someone who's kind of like doing it on their own, or maybe has only one or two other partners, looks a lot different from someone who's putting together a syndication on maybe like a $10 million deal, and they're going to have 10 to 15 investors in it. The pie has to be a little bit bigger, or the overall return has to be a little bit bigger because you're distributing it amongst more people, right? So, for example, if you're putting together a syndication primarily for cash flow investors, and they expect and want like a quarterly distribution starting from month one, okay, it's got the cash on cash return probably becomes the single most important thing about that project, okay, and because they're cash flow investors that want a return starting immediately, it probably has to be some kind of stabilized asset. Okay, so in the multifamily world, in the commercial world in general, that's typically what, 90% occupancy. So it's already spinning off cash flow. And are you going to be able to deliver the returns that you're touting relatively quickly? Okay, so I don't know, these days, a cash flow investor might be looking for something like 5 to 8% cash on cash return. That's not the overall return. That's just the cash on cash return, cash that they get into their pocket during the hold period. Okay, so if they're looking at 5 to 8%, the overall cash on cash return on the project has to be higher than that, because there's got to be something for you, the general partner too, right? So, that's what I would say is a potentially good deal for someone who is looking to syndicate a real estate deal, and you are targeting and catering to cash flow investors. Cash on cash return becomes kind of like the most important component there. Okay, so, but then again, now if you're syndicating a deal though, and you're buying deeply distressed property, okay, with maybe in some cases where you don't even have occupancy, what if it's 100% vacant? And it's a deeply distressed property, okay, but it's got tremendous upside. Do you see how that's like a totally different investor from a cash flow investor? Now you might be developing that property for what, 2-3 years even, and heavy capital expenditures, no cash flow, but potentially because maybe you're getting such a tremendous deal on it, maybe the upside looks big and fat. It's a big fat, but it's all backloaded. There's no cash flow. You got to wait 2 to 3 years, but then we're going to be able to deliver a big fat whopping return for you guys. So you see how that's a totally different investor. Okay, that could be a good deal though and I call them like an entrepreneurial investor. someone who's okay with waiting for the home run, waiting for the big pop down the line.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but totally different mindset from a cash flow investor.
So I think what you're saying is that you have to know your investor then. So the first thing
Exactly.
to do is find out who your investors are. So
And it actually, it actually starts with you.
Mhm.
Okay. Where are you at? What are your skill sets? What are you great at? What types of deals are you looking at? What floats your boat? Are you the type of investor who you like stabilized value add plays that spin off cash flow relatively quick? Or are you the type that, man, the uglier the property or the bigger the challenge, that's my type of deal because I can return such a big, fat, humongous return. Okay. And my type of, and I think I can recruit investors who are entrepreneurial. Okay. And they're okay with getting their returns on the back end. Okay. It starts with you. It really
Okay.
starts with what type of investor are you?
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. What would you add to that, Kimmie?
I think we have to reel it back because I don't know our audience, what type of experience they have. Because syndication, it sounds so simple, but my experience been a lot of people don't even know syndication. A lot of investors in this space for a long time don't even do syndication, haven't heard of syndication, never done one. And they're always talking about, like, I know an investor who's like, have already 20 properties, never done a syndication, don't know what it is. Okay. So I think you got to reel it back, start from the basic. If you get started in real estate, okay, there are many different ways you can get started in real estate, right? You can be a passive investor or you can be an active investor. Well, passive investor is simple. You write a check and you collect a check. But that doesn't mean you don't need to get educated. You need to get educated too. So you understand if is it safe for you to get into that deal? Are you comfortable getting into that deal and make sure that your money you get a return, you get a cash flow, or you get your money back. Okay. And then if you're an active investor, on the other hand, it's like, okay, what asset class you want to focus on? What kind of skill set you want to focus on? Because investment, you want to do it yourself, you want to do it with a group. So I don't know, the audience. So I just want to reel it back there. So if you want to get active, right, you just like what Bill said, you got to know yourself. Okay. You got to know what asset class you want to focus on, what kind of skill set you have, because each skill set will contribute differently. Do you want to work together in a team or you want to do it yourself? You can decide any of that. You can make a decision, and then based on your decision, you just head for it. Okay. But I know for sure, if you get into the syndication game, it's hard to do it yourself unless you are like Superwoman or Superman. You almost have to work as a team. Okay.
It's a team sport. It's a team sport.
Yeah. And it's best if you focus on what your skill sets are and just build on top of that.
Well, I think that's even goes back to what we said earlier, as far as like, I knew my skill sets were, I knew what I liked, and I knew the asset classes I was most interested in because of the fact that that's my strongest area of belief right now is the co-working, co-living. So then I just was able to fill in the gaps and partner with people who had the other expertise. And you build a team, and we do have a team, because again, you can't, and real estate is a team game. So with that information, deciding who you are and what you want, then you're able to communicate. And that's why it encourage everyone to participate in the syndication, because there's nothing like having that experience yourself. And your potential investors will ask you, have you ever done one yourself? So you want to be able to say, yes, this is what I did, and this has been my experience. That's one reason. The second reason, most importantly, so you can see and feel how your potential investor feels on that end, like what information they're going to want to know up front, what information is going to help them feel more comfortable, warm and fuzzy, what frequency of communication, just all of that information. You want to know how they feel on the other side of it, so you can really better relate and better be able to serve them. So once you decide your asset classes, what's the next thing? Now you have to build your investor. What's the next step?
After getting clear with yourself. So just one comment there, Desiree, I want to make, because it's so easy when you hear the word syndication, and then in that definition that we gave you guys, it makes it sound like this complex animal, right? It's like, what did you just say? I don't even understand what that meant. So just to reel it back a little bit, you guys have probably done some form of syndication and not even realize it. Okay. All the syndication is a group investment. So guess what? 2 or more people makes a syndication.
Mhm.
So if you've done any kind of joint venture with you partnered with someone, one person, that's a form of syndication. If
Mhm.
you put together some kind of LLC where maybe you got 2, 3, 4 other people, each of you had a role, guess what? That's a form of syndication. It just so happens the type of syndication that we're doing right now is like, is a, it might seem a little bit more complex, and it can be, but as long if you have the steps and you get educated, you'll see that it ain't that complicated. Okay. It just so happens the types of deals that we're doing are typically in the, 5 to 20 million range. Most of each deal brings in typically 10 to 15 investors. Okay. And we've got to put together 3 different entities and there's paperwork involved. So that's probably the highest level of complexity. But man, if you just do a simple joint venture with someone, that's a form of syndication. That can be done with a simple joint venture agreement.
Mhm.
And you're in a syndication. So and you guys have probably all done a syndication if you look at it that way. Okay. So
Okay.
anyway, I just want to make that clear.
Yes, that's absolutely true. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't know it. And
Yeah.
so what's the first thing though? Okay, so first thing you decide what you're doing. The next thing would be to start building relationships, right? You have to have, so once you find the deal, you have to have people you're going to present it to.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
just walk us through the steps. So I want people to be able to, I know we can't go through detail by detail, but it's conceptually, what's the next step?
Um,
Found this deal, you're excited about it.
yeah. Okay. So getting clear with you, the types of deals that you're going to go after and the types of investors that you want to target. I think one of the first steps too is you're constantly, man, the syndication game, the real estate game, really anytime you're in business, right? Capital raising is such a big component. Okay. And so I don't know, what do you think we should talk about there,
Well,
Kimmie P?
the
Maybe-
first step is being able to building relationships, right? I mean, you can't have it, having the deal and not having anyone to share with is not going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So
Who do you go? Yeah.
relationships,
What's
so
okay.
you're identifying your investor, passive or active, and then from there, what's the next step?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you want to be ready. Okay. So cultivating your relationship starts before you get the deal. Okay. So I don't think you want to get the deal. I think a lot of this happens simultaneously almost, but I think initially you really want to start cultivating your base now, right? If you know you're going to have to go out there and raise capital for when you eventually find the deal or the deal finds you, you want to be ready to pounce on that and be able to recruit money into your deal. Okay. So there's some setting up of the foundation, right? And so, here's how I define the whole game of business. Okay. And whether this is your real estate investing business, your capital raising business, or really any kind of business that you have, the whole game of business I see breaks down into 3 steps. Okay. Build a list, build a relationship with your list, market to your list. And I know I've said this so many times, and I know that sounds so simple that probably all of you are going to discount that as too simplistic. But I got to tell you, anytime I followed that principle in every single business success that I've had, that has been at the core. Building a list, building a relationship with your list, marketing to that list. Okay, if you do that, and then you eventually get to the point where you find a deal and you're ready to raise capital for it or structure that deal however you need to, you're going to be ready. Okay, and so since we're talking about the capital raising component, because I actually think it's probably the single most valuable skill any entrepreneur can develop. Any entrepreneur.
Agreed.
Okay. I don't care what business that you're in. That is a skill that will serve you forever. Okay. And
Can I add to that?
Go ahead. You ahead, Kimmie.
For me, it took me a while to really understand that learning the skill set to raise capital because you become unlimited. Okay. And it didn't dawn on me. The light bulb never turned on for me. Okay. I just go through the motion. I just do all this and that. But just one day, you know, you just like, after you have all these aha moments, like after one day, you just sit there and like, oh my gosh, if you just have the ability to raise money. Okay. Remember in 2008, I had to sit on the sideline because I didn't know how to raise money. I couldn't get money. Right. So I was dying to get in the market. Right. But I couldn't. Okay. So now that I think about it, if you have the ability to raise money, okay, all you need to do is, if you need money, you have to go out and raise more money, right? That's all you have to do, right? But a lot of people don't understand how, not understand, don't see that learning this skill set makes you that valuable or that makes you that unlimited. Okay. The reason why I stress that is because I went through the metamorphosis myself until one day I was like, Dawn, it's like, oh my gosh, if I need money, I just go out to get more money. So money is never the problem for me anymore. Okay. So anyways, I just want to.
And you heard that concept, and you heard that concept, what, 10 plus years ago? And I think you totally discounted it too, right?
Yeah. You mean the 3 steps?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I sat in one of Bill's presentation, and of course, I heard it, never think much into it, and just one day I said, okay, because I'm a real estate agent, right? I said, okay, I'm starting every month. I'm writing a newsletter, right? And I'm sending a newsletter, okay? And so I did that for like 4 or 5 years, okay? So I was in Sacramento. I moved back to San Diego, but when I was in Sacramento, I showed a client homes in Sac, but she never made any decision to purchase. When I moved to San Diego, she called me and she said, I'm ready to buy. And you know how she's ready is she's getting my newsletter every month that she knows I'm still in real estate. I moved back to San Diego. And so that dawned on me. I didn't, it's like, oh my gosh, it's 4 years. I haven't talked to her. Okay. And here she is buying $500,000 home. Okay. I'm making whatever the commission is. So that's when I started embracing and believing. And then from that time on, I try to focus more in what Bill just said, the 3 steps. But a lot of people honestly don't focus on that.
Well, I believe 100% because I think that's the only thing that a skill set that I'm totally comfortable with. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've never worked for anybody. So every business I had to be able to build a community, had to build customers, build clients, whatever we want to refer to them. And had I not been able to do that, and I wouldn't have been able to be an entrepreneur, you can't. You can't do that. So that's number one. So many of the people on the line are already has developed that skill set, but now just really have to hone it in and make sure you're nurturing those communications, those clients, that list, nurturing them so that, like Bill said, when you do have a deal, then they're like all of a sudden out of nowhere you're calling them out. It's a continuing conversation. So once they do that, what's the next step? Now there's different types. So after you do that, then there's the legal part. And it needs to be set up for the syndications. Like you mentioned, the joint ventures or LLCs and so forth. Do you want to share? You have to decide now, once you found the deal, how you're going to set it up. And that's what, after you know who your investors are, you know what you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's structuring the deal, right? So step one is basically, so you find the deal or a deal finds you. Step 2 is basically structure. How the heck do you structure the deal? Okay. So this is when you're going to have to do some underwriting. Okay. You're going to have to work on some math and also, I mean, probably the progression that you look at is like, and depending on the size of the deal, okay, you probably go through, okay, is this a deal that I can joint venture? Is it of the size that I can just joint venture and maybe bring on a partner or 2? Okay. If it's a little bit bigger and you don't think you can just do it with a partner or 2, maybe you're looking at, okay, maybe I need to bring in a few more partners. Is it something that I can structure as an LLC with an operating agreement that where I can bring in, I don't know, probably no more than 5 people who each have an active role. Okay. And can I set it up that way? That is a form of syndication. Okay. Is it of the size and is it the type of deal where I can do something like that? Okay. If not, then you maybe look at something else like, I don't want to get too complex here, but you can do things like a fractionalized trust deed. I think that might be a little, I don't know if I want to get into that. Or you can start thinking of a full-blown syndication where you're putting together a private placement memorandum, subscription agreement, and all that. okay, that the SEC requires for you to do. And so those are the types of syndications that we typically tend to do because of the size of they are, and that we're typically bringing in 10 to 15 investors per deal. Okay, so you kind of go in that sequence. Okay, you know, can I do a joint venture? Okay, no. Can I do an LLC? Okay, if that's not the case, then I might have to do either a fractionalized trust deed or a full-blown syndication under what we call a 506B or a 506C.
Can you explain
Okay.
what's the difference between the C and the
Oh,
B?
man. Okay, so let's just say you're doing bigger deals. You need to raise several $1 million and you know you're going to bring in 10 or more investors, okay? So the SEC allows you to put together a syndication without formally registering it like an IBM would have to do or an Apple have to do, but you do have to operate under specific guidelines that the SEC lays out, and you have to operate and conduct yourself in a way as if you are doing a formal registration. Okay, so there are two forms of exemption. And when I say formal registration, you know, like an IBM would go through a formal registration. It's basically probably a stack of legal docs and legal fees to boot. Okay, so the way you get away from that is you qualify under one of the exemptions that allows you to forego that, but you still have to operate as if you are doing a formal registration. Okay, so two forms that we do is 506B and a 506C. Okay, so a 506B basically, okay, so it allows you to raise on any given deal an unlimited amount. Okay, as far as the number of investors that you can recruit, unlimited number of accredited investors, meaning they have a net worth of $1 million or more, excluding their private residence, or what is the income? 200,000. Yeah, 200,000 over the last 3 years. Okay,
Or 300 as a couple.
or 300 as a couple. That's unlimited amount of those guys, accredited investors, and you can have up to 35 non-accredited investors, non-accredited. Okay, but here's the requirement. There's two requirements. They have to be, okay, they have to be sophisticated. What does sophisticated mean?
Who knows? Huh?
SEC doesn't make it that clear. Okay, but you have to have a reasonable assurance that they can comfortably make their own financial decisions. And if you don't feel that they do, you can get a letter of some sort of letter from their advisor, letting you know that they're being advised by them. Okay, here's another requirement under 506B. Okay, you have to have a pre-existing relationship with both accredited and non-accredited. Pre-existing relationship. How do you define that? Man, depends on the attorney that you talk to. Okay, so if you meet someone brand new and you don't have a pre-existing relationship, they want to invest into your deal, can you do it under a 506B? No. You have to establish that relationship, but depending on the attorney you talk to, okay, one attorney and a colleague and friend of ours says 3 touches within 45 days qualifies as a pre-existing relationship, one of them having to be in person or over the phone. But she also says this, get to know their real situation. Okay, what their goals are and what their true financial situation is. And if you feel reasonably okay with moving forward, okay, you did your due diligence. Okay, so, oh, and here's another thing, 506B, you cannot advertise. You can't go blast it out on Facebook Marketplace or on all your social media. Okay, because it's sort of like the general, you can't go to the general public. You have to have a pre-existing relationship with whoever you market this to. Okay, so that's a 506B, unlimited amount that you can raise. 506C, okay, similar, but here's how it's different. You can only recruit accredited investors into your deal. But here's the big difference. You can advertise, you can blast it out into the world. You can send out email blast, you can put it on Craigslist, you can put it on Facebook Marketplace, on every social media platform, and just blast it out into the world. So you kind of just weigh each, right?
Yes.
So unlimited amount. So, oh, there's another, oh, should I talk about that? But those are the primary ones that we do. There's another one that you guys might be interested in. There's a 504, which is another exemption that you can qualify under. $10 million. you can raise up to unlimited number of accredited, unlimited number of non-accredited. Okay, and you don't have to have a pre-existing relationship, but there's a cap of 10 million and there's a cap on time, 12 months. You see the differences? So each have their own pros and cons, and depends on, again, and I know this might sound a little bit super complicated, but it's all it is a joint ventures blown up on steroids. That's all it is. Okay.
Okay,
It ain't
so
that
A
much
lot
more
more
complex.
documents.
So the
A
biggest
lot more
hang up,
documents.
the biggest hang up between what Bill just said is on a syndication, you have to have legal documents.
Yeah.
You do joint ventures, there's no, no
Simple.
formality.
Our joint venture agreement is 2 pages.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's basically the offering document for
Yeah.
a joint venture.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you do syndication, you have to have the PPM, people have to subscribe, you have to have, question, they have to answer a question because you have to go through the process.
Mhm.
But the good news on all this, okay? Don't let this overwhelm you.
Mhm.
Okay, the stuff that you need to focus on is the stuff that we previously talked about, which is that 3-step process. I'm telling you, if you just focus on that 3-step process, everything else will take care of itself, because guess what? An attorney handles all this for you.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
don't even have to worry about it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I advise everybody again to make sure, that they actually get an attorney, not only for the fact that you have that protection, but
Yeah.
you also have that additional education. Okay, so
Yep.
now you got the deal, you've nurtured your investors, your potential investors, you did your legal work, you got that done. So the next thing would be to,
Okay, so wait, step 1, you got the deal. Step 2, structure the deal. Step 3, set up your entities. Okay, you'll know what entities to set up based on the type of syndication you're putting together. Sometimes you might just need an LLC.
Mhm.
Sometimes you may not just need a joint venture agreement. And then if you
Sure.
go full-blown syndication, you might need
3
several
LLCs.
3 LLCs. Okay,
Mhm.
so and then you got so that's the legal docs.
Yes,
And then step 5 is market.
yes.
You market the opportunity. And so do you see why we said you got to start with that 3-step process?
Mhm.
Because you're cultivating your flock, you're putting them together, you're getting them ready for the deal, so that when you go through this process and step 5 comes, there's no hesitation. You know exactly what to do now, because you've already been building the list, building a relationship with that list, marketing. The market part comes when you get the deal.
Mhm.
But you see how you need to be
Sure.
building the relationship first before you market.
Sure. So
Yeah.
another thing that you mentioned that, okay, so now you're marketing a deal, so you're contacting your leads and you're sharing with them either in a deck or presentation. Some people do live presentations, some do virtual presentations, some people just do mailer presentations, whatever works for you. In that deck, you're spelling out the whole opportunity. You're spelling out, one, there's always that confidentiality statement, leaving that, advising them again, no matter whether they're accredited or non-accredited, to seek their tax, financial, and their legal counsel, because you want them to be able to have that and help in the decision. You told them about the asset, whatever the asset is. You talk to them about the neighborhood, the location, the market itself, the potential, a performer. A performer would be an estimation of, how it's going to perform. And then you talk about what your interest rates, whether you're going to be passive or active, what your interest rates are going to be, what you're going to give. And that's when you include some more of the details about the numbers. Then you talk about overall, if there's anything you've done in the past or any other examples or exhibits you want to be able to share, you do that. And then being able to summarize in an executive summary what the property is, what the asset has, and what your terms are, what you're going to give and when. So fill in any blanks I may have left in that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
so during the presentation, we giving
Mhm.
it the Kool-Aid version. Kool-Aid version. Okay, Kool-Aid version. Okay.
We've seen it both ways. Okay, we used to give the full our presentations, man. When we first started out, God, they used to be like an hour to an hour and a half. We were falling asleep. Okay. We don't do that anymore. Okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when Kimmie P says Kool-Aid
Or
version,
fall asleep, or you used to, or fall asleep, or
no, we
the
would be falling
presentation.
asleep on our
Yeah.
own presentations.
You don't fall asleep
Okay.
anymore.
Because we zip right through it, and our goal is 25 to 35 minutes.
Mhm.
Okay, we do a presentation in 25 to 35 minutes, and it's formulaic. It's the same thing over and over. We go through the same thing. So, but it's really just intended to just get people to take the next step, because for those who really want the detail and the numbers, they're going to get a lot of it. Okay, that's where the business plan comes in. That's where they read the PPM and anything else you want to give them. But man, that Kool-Aid version of 25 to 35 minutes, it's just a high level, very quick, you know, and just getting them to identify that, okay, this is something I might be interested in. Amazingly, many people make a decision just based on that. It's
Well,
incredible.
We did
Yeah.
a lot of education upfront already.
Yeah.
Meaning when Bill talking about, you know, reaching out, build the list, build relationship with your list, we already done a lot of that already.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we put out the deal, we don't discuss about the area, criteria, anything like that. We're just presenting the deal and really watered down Kool-Aid version of it. And if they want more information, then we send them the big old blown up package, which is like 200 pages.
So what's in your deal? What's in your Kool-Aid version? What are some of the things that you definitely include though?
Do you remember our Kool-Aid version?
Is there anything?
Well, we
It's no
okay.
Kool-Aid that we
Is there
remember.
anything in the Kool-Aid?
No, yeah. The first
Did
thing, lots of pictures. Okay, lots of
Okay.
pictures. We usually start off with a video. Okay, because yeah, visuals are always good. Lots of pictures, not a lot of text. Okay, because you don't want to get too deep into the weeds on that initial thing. Okay, because if you start getting too deep into the weeds, okay, now you're basically activating someone's analytical brain, and the analytical brain starts asking a lot of questions and starts trying to justify things and start looking for pros and cons, and now in a ton of questions, and then they start asking about math. And when you're appealing to that neocortex side of the brain, where it's like totally analytical now your job just becomes twice as tough. So that's why we like to keep it at Kool-Aid. Okay, because they're going to get all that stuff when they get the package. My God, man, there's dozens and even 100+ pages that they get to sift through. That's for the pure analytical brain. Okay, so what's in that presentation? We have a formula. Okay, so like I said, we have frameworks for everything. Our presentation is formula also. Put this in, then put this. So it basically starts off with a very general statement on who this investment is for. Okay, if this sounds like you, stick around. If not, you're welcome to go right off the bat. Okay, and then we go into it. Well, and then it'll include meet the team. So we usually start off with that because most people are wondering who the heck is behind this. Okay, now we don't spend a lot of time there either. You know, I think when you're presenting, one thing that you talk about in your history that will stick out for folks. One thing you've done and if you've got a big team, one thing about each is like quick. Okay, and then we go into, we like to talk about some bigger forces that are in play on why your asset or why your asset class is like the one to really be looking at and excited about. So we talk about those market forces. Okay, we talk about the market forces that are happening in multifamily, like the fact that we're becoming a renter nation, the fact that the immigration rate continues to skyrocket with most of them being renters. We talk about how the serious delinquency rate was less than 1% during the Great Recession, because that's on a lot of people's minds, right? And so and then we go into we talk a little bit about the area, okay, because that's big for us also. So that almost fits into that big market forces umbrella that we're talking about, and we haven't even talked about the project yet. Okay, but do you see how when you talk about those market forces, you almost get the impression that, oh my God, there's this giant wave, and all you're basically doing is you're getting in the way of progress of this massive momentum shift. Okay, you can use that for a lot of asset classes. You know, Desiree uses it for short-term rentals. Very easy to use it in that arena. You can use it for multifamily. You can use it for assisted living facilities. Okay, because there's major market forces with some major, what do you call it? Tailwinds that are pushing you, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
by the time you talk about your deal, it's like, oh, it's a
I sold
no-brainer.
already.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Mhm.
All you're doing is just taking advantage of these major market forces that are already in play. It's a no-brainer. Okay. And so then we go into the opportunity and business plan. We're showing a lot of pictures. Okay. A lot of pictures and like, Kool-Aid. Okay. Of course, we're showing the numbers. Okay. We don't want to put a ton of numbers on there because we don't want to go into the neocortex side of the brain where they become overly analytical. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and then, so we're basically, so we go through that, then we summarize it. We probably repeat the same thing 2 or 3 times, and then we do a summary, and then we go, boom, we end it, and then we go into a Q&A. Now we can relax. Okay. For anyone who chose to stick around, we give people total permission. Okay. To leave if it doesn't make sense for them.
Mhm.
Okay. We start with that. If you don't think you're in the right place, always give people. I mean, that's empowering. Now it makes them feel in control.
Mhm.
Okay. We're okay with you guys leaving. This is because guess what? This is not for everyone. Is that true? Especially if you're doing any kind of syndication. And actually, even if it's not technically true, when you're bringing on and recruiting an investor, isn't it true that you want to qualify that person because you got to be in business with that person? You may not want to be in business with that person.
I think
So
that's
guess what?
very true. And I think that's it's a big misnomer is that sometimes, and I think that was one of the you've touched on that in your mastermind as well, as far as the attitude. 2 things. One, you're offering a person an opportunity. So people feel, okay, they hesitate to ask for cash or approach people because they feel they're asking for money. No, you're sharing an opportunity with them, and your opportunity enables them to either receive passive income or active income, or an opportunity that they would not be able to do by themselves. One, because maybe they don't have enough money to buy that $10 million or $20 million project themselves, or they don't have the time to manage it or the expertise to manage that property. So they're actually dependent upon you to do that. So you're offering them an opportunity to participate in something that could be very, very huge and life-changing for them. The second thing is that people think it's just as important to the investor who you're doing business with than it is for the investor who they're doing business with. A lot of the investors are making their decisions after they discuss or after they, analyze the deal itself. They're doing business with the person, and you've heard that before too. They're going to do the business with you. If they like you, know, like, and trust you, then they'll do business with you. And but they have to realize too that that you're doing the same thing. The sponsor, the manager, doing the same thing. Like you said, there's some people that we just want to pass on because of the fact that maybe they think they're ready, but maybe they're not ready. And we can determine that by the amount of questions they ask, not the fact that they can't ask questions, but it's the type of questions that they're asking or their apprehension, or the hesitancy. We don't want anyone in a 4 to 6 year deal that is not as excited about it as we are. And I think that's one of the biggest things is this overcoming, especially when you're just starting out, because you need that money and you're worried about getting enough money.
Yeah, right.
When you can relax on that and just feel that, it's going to work out. And I think that's, again, that's something that you arrive to. We don't just really go out thinking that, but I've gotten to the point where I'm relaxed. The fact that I know the right people will show up, then you're not desperate to take any and everybody. And and you want them to be as excited about it as you are, because otherwise it's just you're spending your time doing things that you're not going to want to do, which is babysitting that particular investor.
Yeah, so true, man. It really is a positioning, and yeah. So I actually think it's okay, even during presentation, to let people know that this is definitely not for everyone, and this is definitely not for everyone, and not everyone will qualify. You get that? And maybe that's empowering for you guys to understand also, is that, man, you are not selling. Your job is not to sell. We are not selling, because in essence, I mean, if this is not for everyone, okay, what is your job really? Your job is really to identify the right people for your project. Your job is to educate and qualify. Educate and qualify. That's what I'm here for. This is not for everyone. This may not be for you. Okay. I'm here to give you the facts, okay, and see if you are a qualified person for this project.
Mhm.
Qualified in any way you want to define that. Qualified from a accredited stand, you know, if you're doing the accredited investor thing, they definitely need to qualify.
Mhm.
Even 506B, they need to be sophisticated investor if they're not accredited, you know. But guess what? You also qualifying from a, you know, do you want to be partners with this person?
Exactly.
That's another big deal, man.
Mhm.
Okay, if you think someone's going to be a butthole, do you want to be in business with that person?
Yep.
Okay, so
You can't afford to. It could rock the whole cradle. You know, it's just it's too expensive in your time, your energy, and then, you know, then just the energy of the whole project. So once you get past that point, you have something you want to contribute, Kimmie?
Nope.
No? Okay. Once you get past that point, there's so many different ways of structuring your deal. You know, and you mentioned like sometimes it's the interest rate that you get. And we've heard, I think you said like once a year it was like a 7 and 7. I think you talked about a 10 and 10, 7 and 7. You talked about what something that where they get dividends monthly, dividends quarterly, dividends at the end. And I know there's so many different ways of doing it. But what are some of the common ways just to give people like we're
Well,
doing, go on.
I think you have to, I have to pull it back. The reason why, okay, so usually if you already start doing it already, your investor already know your typical projects, what kind of return already, okay? So every time you change the payout, you change it, you have to re-educate them, okay? And so when you roll out, you know, presentation, okay, those are already what your base have been familiar with already. Because if you roll something that's not, you got to re-educate them. Otherwise, that deal that you're presenting, no traction. Because it's different than what you've been presenting.
Mhm. So
Okay.
you mean it's different as far as the terms as well as the asset class we were talking about the other day. So if you're used to presenting or in the multi-residential space and all of a sudden you're going into
Yes.
parking
Yeah.
storage units, then you got to re-educate them on the value and so forth. Okay.
Yeah. So if you change asset class, if you're changing the term payouts, things like that, when you're presenting that,
Mhm.
you're not going to get traction. So usually the base that you're presenting to already familiar with the type of projects and the type of returns that the project is delivering.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Go ahead. Bill.
I think you answered the question, or
So
Because the structuring, because I think Desiree asked about structuring come way
Oh,
before,
yeah.
way before you present the deal.
Yeah. That's like step 2, right? Remember,
Yeah.
structure the deal. So step
Yeah.
1 is you get the deal, or the
Mhm.
deal finds you. Step 2 is you structure the deal. That's
Yeah.
where, and when you're doing your underwriting, you're figuring out, okay, what kind of returns are, you know, can we deliver, or are you looking to deliver? And hopefully you have that identified before you actually get the deal, because that's what's going to predicate what type of deals that you're accepting or not.
Mhm.
Okay, you got to get clear on all that stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
but man, structuring can be a whole week-long course on how to structure it. Okay.
But you covered
So
in your mastermind, yes?
we'll cover, yeah, we go into structuring, you
Mhm.
know, structuring and how to underwrite, and we cover all that, man. We'll go through the math, how to underwrite a deal, and what would be an ideal structure based on, you know, a
On the
specific deal.
And then
Yeah.
for those who are new to the terminology underwrite, could you explain that?
Wow. Underwrite is basically just, you know, you're running formulas.
You're
Right.
putting all the numbers together to see
Yes.
if the
Crunch
deal
numbers.
If the
is
deal
good enough.
pencils. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because when you first get the deal and you think you want to do the deal, okay, you're moving pretty fast, and
Mhm.
you're and you're analyzing it on, you're probably not doing a super deep dive into it. You're taking a lot of numbers and assuming that they're correct.
Mhm.
Okay. But when it comes time to underwrite and really do a deep dive and really structure the deal, now you're diving into, okay, you know, since we do syndications, we use a specific spreadsheet, okay, that basically now, so we've got a general idea, and we have a good sense of whether or not it's a good deal or not, and we want to go on it. Okay. But when we say underwrite, now we put it through our spreadsheet.
Mhm.
Okay. And basically just see it, and see how the numbers shake out to as far as like what we'll be able to deliver to our investors
Mhm.
and what type of splits we need to come up. Does it need to be 50-50? Can it be 60-40? Can it be 70-30? Or does it need to be 80-20? Okay. Can we pay 5% or does it, or can we pay 7% or does it need to be cash on cash return or does it need to be more like 5%? Okay. Uh, um, depending on the deal. Okay. Does it need to be a 5-year hold or does it need to be more like a 7 or 10-year hold in order to deliver the returns? Okay. So that's the type of interplay that's going on with the numbers and the different decision points that you have to make. Okay. Now I know this might sound a little bit overwhelming, but it ain't that overwhelming when you got a spreadsheet that basically is formulaic and all you got to do is plug in numbers and it tells you. Okay, you change if you change, like we use a spreadsheet. It's a simple spreadsheet that we show you, okay, exactly how to use it. And then it's, so for example, it'll tell you if I give off 60% of the deal to my investors, okay, what's their return on investment? Automatically calculates it. What's their cash on cash? Oh, okay, if it's not good enough, okay, what if I give them 70%? What's the ROI? What's the cash on cash? How much is their overall return when we sell it in 5 years? All that's automatically calculated. Okay. But see, you got to make those types of decisions. How long am I going to hold it? What type of interest rate do I need to get from the loan?
Mhm.
Right? Because everything is interrelated. If you change one component, everything changes. If you
Mhm.
change a simple thing, if your loan goes from 5% to 6%, everything changes.
Yes.
If you change your rental increase, oh, here's another thing you got to underwrite. Oh, okay, what's my rental increase plan? Oh, I'm going to raise rents by 3% per year. Okay. Well, okay, that doesn't allow me to hit my numbers. What if I had to go 4%? Okay. And then another decision you got to make is, well, if I go 4%, will the market allow me to go 4%? It's another thing you have to play. So do you see? So, and then another thing you got to underwrite is you got to project your expenses. Okay. Okay. Typically I go, if this is going through your head, like, okay, I'm going to underwrite this thing at 50% expense ratio.
Mhm.
Well, what if you're buying a building that caters to Section 8?
Mm.
Well, guess what? Section 8 typically has higher expenses.
Mhm.
Is that legit now? Do you, or do you have to go 55 or 60% higher expense ratio because you can anticipate higher operating expenses from a Section 8 filled building? All these factors are in play here on how you underwrite. This is what I mean. This is what we mean by underwriting. These are all the decision points that you have to make in order to deliver the returns and what you have to do. Okay. So,
this is why they need to be educated on all those different things. Because if you forget one thing or you miscalculate one thing, like you said, it changes everything. And you don't want that to happen after the fact, after you present it to your investors and got them involved. You need to really do the worst case scenario, do the best case scenarios, do many scenarios as to what makes this work. So you know exactly at what point it's going to work or not work. And then not be afraid. The biggest thing is not be afraid to pass it if the numbers don't pan out. Don't chance it.
exactly.
Don't chance it. And it's like many times you go through many deals before you find one that's willing to be able to present, because you do not want to test with other people's money. You don't want to take those type of risks, because once you lose that credibility or lose that experience with them, then you're back to square one. So you gotta know all the different things you need to check out and all the different ways of being able to do it, to be able to analyze this deal before you even present it. So you can
That's
present
a real important thing that Desiree just said there, is like, don't be afraid to pass on it. I know a lot of investors get to the point where after you've looked at and you kicked the tires and you underwrote so many deals, you start to feel desperate that you got to do a deal.
Mhm.
Okay. But in this, especially where we are today in this environment, you've got to look at 2 to 3 times the number of deals.
Mhm.
Okay, because it's a little bit hyper. Now it's softening a little bit. Okay, so hopefully that'll provide a little bit more deal flow in the coming months and years, which we anticipate. But you know, it's still a pretty
Yes, it
hyper
is.
market. Okay. You
Yeah.
got to be real careful, man,
Yeah, you do. You
and
do.
be,
And you
be
have to- you
okay
have
with
to-
passing. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to pass it because again, you got to know that you got to be able to work the numbers, and then numbers have to have a lot of flexibility in the sense that if a market changes, you're able to ride those changes and still come out and win at the end.
Definitely.
And that's why you give yourself this time periods, like from the 4 to 6 years or 4 to 7 years or whatever it is, so that you have time to hit the button when the time is right. So you've gone through all that. So another thing that okay, so part of the interest was people were telling people how they can raise capital or build their real estate portfolio without capital of their own, or even credit. And I say credit because of the fact if you are putting together syndication, to raise the capital for the project, then many times it doesn't rely on your own credit. Now, if it needs a loan, then you're gonna have to be the guarantor or get somebody who to be the guarantor. And that's another investor. It's a person that actually can give a percentage of your deal for guaranteeing a loan. 'Cause maybe they have credit or they have assets or reserves to be able to do that. And then as a result of that, or thanks to that, they get a percentage of the deal. And there's some people specifically, they do that, that's what they want to do and that's what they do. But if you don't have your own experience, another thing is that you bring people on your team that has different experiences in those different areas that are going to be necessary to make this work, whether it's your property manager, whether it's your accounting or your CFO and so forth, bring that together. But for themselves, for them to be able to acquire this, let's talk about that because a lot of people don't know. And I think that was really impressive when you and I know a couple other syndicators, Monique and so forth, that what they do is that they have a deal, they get a deal, and when you put in the other syndication, there's certain fees they're able to get upfront, there's certain percentage of fees you get along the way, but your big win usually is at the end. And that's how you can actually put a deal together to be a billion-dollar deal without any of your own cash or credit. So just kind of talk us through what that looks like. I know some of the fees you're able to take was what the acquisition fee, correct?
Yeah.
How-
Oh,
um,
multiple.
The person,
Yeah.
yes.
That's all right. I just wanted to be respectful of people's time. It's 6:40 already.
Yes.
How long is this supposed to go?
7:00.
Oh,
7.
7 o'clock. Okay.
And I want to wrap this up because I do want to bring in their questions.
Yes,
So
we
I
have
want
a
to
few
just go, I'm going
questions.
to go through this in a big circle. I want them to know when they said that what we promoted, the fact that they can raise the capital, but these are and this is how the ways they can get the capital. They can get the money, they can get paid. You want to go through the fees with them?
Oh man, there's so many different ways you can get paid as a syndicator. So we'll just list them off. Probably the most common way is like acquisition fee
Mhm.
upfront, and so I want to say that's anywhere from 2 to 5%. Right, the lower price the deal, the higher the percentage. Okay, that's typically what we look to do, 2 to 5% of the price. There is typically so as part of the general partnership, if you're part of the general partnership as well, you typically get whatever your ownership percentage is. So if your investors as a group get 60% of the deal or 70% of the deal, that means you get 30 to 40% of the deal.
Mhm.
And so you get 30 to 40% of the cash flow during the hold period. Okay. And then upon sale of the property, you get 30 to 40%, if that's what the structure is, of the profits. So there's 3 income streams right there. Okay. But there's also other ways to get paid, man.
Asset
What-
management fee.
Asset management fee that could
they
be
have-
done as a percentage of the raise, or it could be done as a percentage of the net operating income per month. Okay. It could be, what else is there? Capital transaction fee on the front and the back. Okay. Construction management fee. Okay. There could be a,
Guarantor if you're guaranteeing the loan.
oh, there's another one, man. Loan sponsor fee.
Mhm.
Okay. And then even a refinance fee. Okay. What else is there? Kimmie?
Disposition fee.
Disposition fee.
Mhm. But they're, go on.
Mortgage broker. Okay. If you're a mortgage broker, you can get paid that way.
If you're
Okay.
a realtor.
If you're a realtor, you can get a commission on the front and the back.
Mhm.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm probably leaving out like a handful of others, but can you think of any others?
No, that's basically, it's a good
yeah.
idea. This gives them an idea. So, because if
Yeah.
it, so that they know that that's what you get from it, that's how you get it. And then usually there's percentages, like you said, either from anywhere from 1 to 5%. So it's a percentage of it along the way, except for
Exactly.
your end. And many times you're doing it, but you're putting in the sweat equity. And sometimes as that investor, as that syndicator, rather, you have the option of either putting money, cash into the deal or not. And I know some people say, well, if you're not putting, there's a theory, if if the sponsor's not putting money into the deal, then there's a question mark. Well, they're putting all the sweat equity in it. They're finding, I mean, it's many, many, many hours, as you know, to find a deal, negotiate it, to do it, to manage it and so forth. So then many times they get it at the end, their win is at the end. So that's their incentive to make sure that there is a win at the end. So, it's like, if that's, if it works, then it works for everybody. So that's how you can actually put something together as a syndicator and not necessarily, and build your portfolio and have a percentage of millions of dollars of assets without having to utilize your own cash up front. But
Unless
again,
you want to.
unless
you want to.
good. Yeah, if you have a good deal, if you have the cash,
Yeah.
you want to put it in.
Exactly. You will eventually get to the point where you'll want to invest in your own deals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, but that just gives them, for those who just have to start somewhere. But I would not suggest starting unless you've got the education and unless you actually have done one yourself. That way, again, as I mentioned, you can experience that and know what you're doing, because you don't want to ruin your reputation, as well as the fact that you don't want to take a chance to do it. So now, is there any questions that comes in? I'm going to open it up. You can put it in the chat. I see something in the chat. Kimmie, are you monitoring that?
Yeah. I can
you
read
are?
them.
Okay, you can have it.
Okay.
Okay. So anything you want to say and wrap up? I think that you do have a mastermind coming up. So put that link in there. It's an application. Not any and everybody can come. It's a small group. And I love the fact that you work with small groups, because it really gives them a time to, quality time with you. And what I really like about your masterminds is that it's different from a seminar. Seminar is someone standing in front of the room and they're just doing bump, 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 and throwing knowledge at you or information. It's more of a conversation. You're sitting at the table. So like boardroom style. So we're sitting at the table and people are everyone's interacting and sharing, but you get the information and the knowledge, but it's just the way it's done. It's just really much more powerful. And the fact afterwards, they've got 6 months or how much time after the 2 days. Well, tell us about the present. Tell us what your mastermind is coming up real quickly before we go to the question.
So what do you want to cover? These?
You have a mastermind.
Yeah.
What is it? When is
Yeah.
it? How much is
Okay,
it?
so it's coming up later this month in actually a week and a half or
Next
so here.
weekend,
Yeah,
next weekend, isn't it?
next weekend. So the way we do this, okay, it's only the second time we've done it. Okay, it's not our main gig, but we do enjoy putting these things together. They're small groups. Okay. Desiree was at the first one, so she has personal experience that you can peg her on. Okay, she can give you her own personal experience. She's going on to do some amazing things, and I think we might try and coax her into maybe sharing during a segment or two, because she's got an amazing story, like on your 12 unit that you did. But anyway, so it's kicks off. Okay, it's a pretty intensive mastermind. All right. It starts off with 2 days. Okay. And it'll be a big picture overview, but we're calling it mastermind. Okay. You're going to get a lot of the core principles and what we go through. Okay. So basically we've got 8 modules that we go through. All right. And we're not going to be able to go through all 8 modules during the 2 days, but that's okay. All right. Even if we only go through 3 or 4 of them, we're going to reel it. So we're going to give you the principles, the core foundation, things to think about. And then 1 week later, we go with 8 weekly sessions. So we're going to dial it back and we're going to break down each of the 8 modules and cover 1 module per week. Okay. And you can ask questions. We can interact, and, we want to make sure that you're getting exactly what what you came for. Okay. But the 2 days itself is really, we call it a mastermind because the power of a mastermind can be phenomenal.
It is.
Okay.
And like been part of a mastermind, this is definitely one you want to participate in.
Yeah. And so we encourage everyone to come with either a problem. If you've got a problem, anything in the real estate investing arena that you're facing that you'd like to have to overcome, bring it with you. okay? Because we will leave lots of time for what we call spotlights so that you get to bring your problem out into the open and then just see what the group can come up for you, and you will be amazed. Okay, that's why we call it a mastermind. Okay, so not just problems though, but if you have a big opportunity and you're not sure how to take advantage of it, or it scares you, or you don't think you have the resources, or you have no idea how to take it down, or you're afraid of it, bring that with you and put it on the table, and we get to chop it up. You're going to get ideas. You're going to get resources. You might get a partner. You might get a connection to someone who can connect you to with that. I'm serious. I mean, masterminds can be one of the most valuable things that you can involve yourself in. Okay. And as we go into a crazy time, and as times get crazier, if you're not in a community now, get in some kind of community that can take you to higher levels. Okay. And I know this is you're part of Desiree's community. So you're already community oriented, and Desiree has a humongous community. Okay. But we treat ours like community also. Okay. Because once you invest in this, it's like we don't take that lightly. We see that as you're investing in us. Okay. And in exchange for that, you get a lot of loyalty and our help for the long term. I mean, when I'm talking about, just as an example, when Desiree did her 12-unit deal, didn't we have a conversation, Desiree?
Yeah. Well, we were in the car. I was talking with Gary, and we were doing our underwriting and deciding, okay, what should we do this way, and this way? So you always want to get second opinions, if not third opinions. So we called you, and that's when you shared with us, okay, you can do it this way or do that way and do this and that way. So having that access of someone who understands the deals and who is available just to give you those quick options, then we're able to do it and implement it, and that created to part of our success. Because again, there's so many different ways of structuring these deals. So even if you sat and learned 12 of them or 20 of them, there still could be another way to do it, especially depending upon the deal. Not everything is the same.
Yeah.
So, and it depends on your audience. It depends on what you're trying to deliver to your audience, to your investors.
Yeah. So that was about, if I remember, it was like a 45 to 60-minute conversation. She was in her car, and I remember the sound going on and off. And I think Gary was on there too.
Yes.
And so we had that conversation, gave her some ideas on how to structure it. Okay. And then here's the punchline. All I know is I hear from her a few weeks later, she closes on this deal. Okay. Raised 800,000 in like a 3-week period. And I don't know if you heard her story, but I think she passed the 6-figure mark on her 12-unit short-term rental in what, less than 4 months?
Oh, we're way, well,
way past, you blew past it, right?
Yes.
So
yes. 4 or 5, 6 months, we're just, we're still exceeding our pro forma. That's what
yes,
that way.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the power of being part of a community and being able to access that type of specialized knowledge when you need it.
Right.
When you need it.
You need it, and you don't get that everywhere. You need people that you don't want you don't want people that are doing it. You don't want people that also there's people, educators that talk about it. But you want people that are actually doing it. They're in the throes right now, every day. So you and Kimmie do it every single solitary day. So you see a lot of different scenarios, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's what's really important. So tell them, do you have the link in the chat?
Yeah, but that's the link. That's to get you qualified to get into the mastermind. Not everybody will be able to get in because seating is limited.
Seating is limited. So tell them what the investment is overall.
It's a Desiree's place.
That's right. I'm hosting it. I'm always
she's hosting it. So it's very limited. Okay.
So it is, but we like it that way. We like it that way. Less is more. All right. So tell them what the investment is, because I think it's a very, very reasonable for.
Okay. So the last time we didn't bring anybody in, right? This time we bring in Kim Lisa Taylor. She's a syndication attorney. We bring in a business partner to talk about underwriting and then asset management. Last time we didn't have any of that component.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So investment is how much? How much is it?
$3,500.
$3,500. And that includes the weekend and includes the meals, the delicious catered.
Wine and cheese. I think we have a lot planned. I mean, I think we're going to have like a wine and cheese on Friday. It includes all meals during the 2 days. It'll be wall-to-wall education, but also a lot of time for interaction and masterminding. We
Mhm.
want to be conscious about that. I almost think that that is just as valuable and critical to have. So it would be so easy for us to just overwhelm you with info. But we're going to be conscious about that. We're going to leave a lot of room for just the interaction and the masterminding,
Mhm.
because I mean,
That's important.
that'll be real valuable. Yeah.
And it includes accommodations, Are you having
Yes.
people come for the
Yes.
day or, okay?
Exactly.
That includes accommodation too.
Accommodations, and includes the 8 weeks thereafter.
Yep.
Yep.
And access to you forever and ever and ever.
Yes, because you're building relationships with everyone. Okay. In such a small group, you get to know everyone.
Mm.
Okay. You'll get to know what everyone is doing. We share a lot of stuff. You build relationships and bonds. And who knows, man, you might walk out of there with a partner. You're going to walk
Partner.
out with a ton of resources. Okay.
Resources.
And you've got access to a community
Mhm.
and people that can ideally take you to higher and higher levels, if that's where you want to go.
That's where you want to go. That's
Yeah.
absolutely. So let's
Yeah.
open up some questions. Let's
Okay,
see.
because we
Yeah.
have such a small group, instead of me reading the question, why don't you guys chime in, maybe raise your hand, and then I'll just call you guys in and you guys can ask the question.
Okay, they can do that.
Yeah.
So raise your hand. They can do
Yeah.
that. As long as they keep it short enough so that everybody else can have a chance.
Yeah. So why don't you guys do that?
Okay, so who has a question?
Who has a question?
Question, a comment, I know Femi's on here. Femi specializes in land. She does amazing things with land banking. So if you haven't met her or talked to her, you should reach out to her and reach out to each other. Hyla's on here. Hyla she's one of our investors in Homework, and she's also a true digital nomad. She's sharing that with us the other day. I'm gonna get a testimony from her, Niami. I know Niami for a while. She's also been involved. So let's introduce yourself, speak up, and let's
Yeah,
connect.
because it's a small group.
Yes.
Yeah.
So questions. Nobody
So
had.
when you started it the first time, I know you touched on the data. You have to have a list. You have to get to know them. You have to market it to them and build a relationship. But how do you present yourself as part of the market? I guess that's what I want to know. They will come to know you as investors, or you market to them, teaching them how to do investment. I don't know how I'm phrasing my question, but I want to know. They know you are in real estate.
She's a real estate agent and
Yeah,
broker. Yes.
So I'm an agent.
Mhm.
Okay. So the way that I approach, okay, so this is what I do. I'm a real estate agent, but I really am an investor, and that's where I want to spend time with. So when I meet people I sell homes to, okay, I let them know that, hey, this is what I do, but I am a real estate investor. So I think as an agent, you do get some credibility, okay, especially raising money, because you have the license and people already know you. Okay, so this is what I do, but I'm also a real estate investor. I help clients invest, get passive cash flow, whatever. So
yeah, I agree. And I think it's really easy in a sense, because I know when I was a real estate, a lot of people, first of all, think that the real estate agents and brokers get all the good deals. So many of them will always say to you, hey, if you find a good deal, let me know. If you find something that you should let me know. So you already have that credibility. So you're able to go in and find the deal, and then be able to say to your clientele, your list, people that know, like, and trust you already because they've done business with you, hey, this is an opportunity that I thought I'd share with you. I wanted to share with you. This is what it is. This is what the returns are. This is how it's structured. And if you're interested, let me know and I'll tell you more. So you're in a perfect position because you are in real estate. You've been speaking and people know that you have experience in real estate, and you're able to, once you learn the technology or techniques to analyzing a deal, underwriting a deal, you'll be able to do it relatively easy, and you'll be able to find them.
I guess it comes to a point where you don't have the funds. If you don't have enough funds and you're bringing somebody else as joint venture, and you're asking them to put up the largest amount of the money in there.
Yeah, but you've done the sweat equity. Again, if you have any to put in, like, sometimes people will ask you, are you investing in your own money? And your answer can be yes, even if you have $5,000 or $10,000 in it. Most of them will ask you how much you have, and they'll say, do you have anything? And you say, yes, I've invested in this project myself. So it doesn't have to be the huge amount, but you're putting the sweat equity, you know what it involves in finding a deal. You know how many hours and days and weeks and months it takes to find a good deal and to underwrite it and to get to that point. Then you got to find the attorney to do all the paperwork, you got to do all the phone calls. So yes, you're putting sweat equity, which is most important because of the fact that you are investing something that you won't even get well,
If
it
I
is
if
until
I
the
bring
end,
it to you.
right? Until the end. So you're actually putting in more, you know, and not necessarily more, but you're putting this as much as somebody else. You're taking as much risk as anybody else because you get nothing if the deal does not work. You know,
Yeah,
and you've taken all that time.
I think you have a very good question. A lot of people don't know how to start, start sharing.
Mhm.
And so, in our mastermind, we have a lot of, because there's a lot of different ways you can approach. Okay, there's not one set way. Okay, so it's just a matter of you finding your approach. I it's like the way that you educate and share the information. It could be video, audio, it could be written words. All you do is you share the story. Okay, the story is you're a real estate investor. You've been able to help clients invest, get X amount of return on this project, and this is the project that you got involved in. If you don't have the experience, okay, this is where you network and you get you get involved with others.
Partner with somebody,
Yeah.
partner in a deal. You can
Mhm.
partner in a deal. We have people
Yeah.
partnering in a deal.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
you're going to have people that are qualified
Yeah.
to partner in your deal. So
Yeah.
that's a
So
good way to get your feet wet.
yeah. So when you don't have the experience, you always have to come in as the we part. Okay, we as a team. Yeah.
But you could do it. You'd be perfect for it.
Yeah. Anyways,
Any other
hopefully we
questions?
answered that question. Any other question? Any other?
Well,
You might want to read the questions if there's questions.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
okay. So I have nobody good. I'm going to ask. Okay. So let me ask. I said, how did you get started raising funds, and did you do it to be able to buy properties for
It
yourself?
was my question, so you already answered that.
Okay. Next one, learn how to fund your real estate investment without any of your own money.
that was our title. So that's how we show them how to do it, to be able to build a syndication. They
Okay,
can do the
so-
syndication without any of their money. I mean, they can do it, but some people, if they don't, that's one way of doing it.
So I'm gonna share. So when we get into the real estate investment game, right? We're gonna, there's two power positions that we call it, either find the money or find the deal. Those are the two power positions, okay? Depending on your skill set, okay? You focus on building the skill set. If you bring in the deal, usually you get a percentage of the general partnership side. And if you focus on the capital, you raise the capital and you deploy into the project, you get a percentage of the general partnership. Okay, so you don't technically put out money, but you have to have the skill set. You've got to learn the skill set in order for you to be a partner. Okay, so I don't know, that sums up that's how you can get involved in real estate without any of your money, is you got to build your skill set up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You have to bring something to the table, but
Mhm.
and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There was another question I saw pop up from Femi.
Yes, this is how do you access private capital, private money? How is just like Bill was saying, is you make connection, you connect with them, and then you share your deal, and that's how you get the capital. That's how we do it. But of course, it's easy for us to say that. We've done it over years and years and years. Okay, so I can share you stories. Like Bill's been doing it for 25 years. I've been in business for 17 years. We're at the point where if we have a deal, we send it out on an email. People get on a webinar. Okay, we can get $1 million. We do have clients that invest $1 million, but that $1 million doesn't come. She's been in our base for 10 years. Okay, so if you take $1 million divided by 10, that's 100,000 a year.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right. Yeah, but see, okay, so but Femi also is a great candidate for it. She's been in real estate. She knows about it. She's a great people person. She's involved in a lot of communities, and a lot of organizations, and a lot of membership orgs. She's a member of Homework. And so she has, access to land. So say, for example, you find a great land deal, Femi, all right, a great land deal, and people know that that's what you're in, and know that you know what you're talking about and know the deal. And you say, okay, we need, $1 million for this piece of land. And I'm going to offer you, since land is usually passive because there's no cash flow necessarily, unless they come across some amazing stories that you share with us. And so it's more of a long term, but you can put in 10,000 and 10,000 or 100,000, 50,000, whatever that magic number is. You take that, you wrap it up, that information, wrap it up, and then say, do you want to be part of this deal, and present it to your people? Because a lot of people want to get into your deals. Maybe they don't have the 50,000 or the 100,000 or whatever the case may be. So you would structure it so to find out how many, how much you need and how much it would take, how many people it would take, and then present it to your clientele, all those people you've talked to in the past. Just present it to them and say, I have this deal, I'm syndicating it, and would you want a piece of it? And just tell them again what they're going to get, when they're going to get it. Then your responsibility is making sure you'll be able to deliver those results. But you know your stuff. So you're a perfect candidate for that, especially if you have the structure, like they teach you the structure. I mean, it's a structure like anything else. It's a structure. If you want to learn how to play pickleball, you learn the game, you learn the rules, you figure it, take it from there. So yeah, once you know the structure, you'd be a perfect person for that because you have all the qualities, you have the skill set.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And how are you? Desiree, it's been a long
I'm
time.
fine, thank you. I know, it's so good to see
I'm
you
so
face.
so happy that I'm here back again. And hello, Kimmie. We know each other from ABA. Yeah. So
You did? Okay.
yeah, and Mike, I have one question, which is right. Desiree is right about land. I specialize in a pre-developed land. It is a one stage to become fully developed in the path of growth, which actually right now, most of the focus of our developments are actually in Victorville, this Victor Valley. That is the last master plan in LA County. Now, I have some investors who are actually looking for lender to do this, because our company actually is the lender also, but it has a big percentage if you're going to pay it by monthly. Okay, we can finance the land, but some investors are looking for a second life because bank right now they don't lend in land.
Mhm.
Yeah, so do
So
you?
the thing is that, again, finding your deals, and then like I said, if you have a good deal, the money will come. So whether it's in your current database or whether it's family and friends or the people that are currently in your database saying, hey, do you know of anybody that is, somebody asked, I saw something about self-directed IRAs or something like that. Was that a question somebody mentioned? I thought I saw something.
Yeah, there's a couple more questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so if they don't have the cash, maybe there's some other ways of being able to utilize funds from either their insurance or their savings or their equity from their homes or self-directed IRAs. There's a lot of different other ways, but if not, then you find the people that do have the money to be able to invest and do it. Because a lot of people do. They're either going to 1031 exchanges or they're retiring or they've got a big win. There's still a lot of cash out there. Yes, I'm saying, what's the next question?
Has anyone thought of partnering with an organization who runs group homes? That's a question mark. It's a great way to 10x your ROI. I'm looking to start my healing homes again and looking for potential partner as I'm preparing for my personal portfolio for ownership. So group homes. Anybody? That's a question.
Yeah.
Who's asking the question?
Michelle, Miss Michelle.
Okay, so awesome. So anyone that's interested in that, then put it at the information. Michelle, again, but you have to make sure you have all the qualifications and have all the things, you just have to present the package, know the information, know how you're going to structure it. Same thing that Bill talked about. So that before you bring in investors, make sure that you have the experience or people on your team that are experienced and it just gets educated so you know how to structure it. And once you have that structure, I think then people will be very interested in it because it is, becomes a very good cash.
If you've got a background in history and a little bit of a track record, that would be something fresh. I don't see that sounds like something that is potentially something you can syndicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great industry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right property, though, the right property. Right
Mhm.
management. Yes, what's the next one?
I see deals that I would be great purchase as as in real estate to purchase, but I don't know how to get 100% funding and I need to move fast.
Who's this? Who's this from?
Linda, I don't know if she's
Linda?
still here.
Okay, well, Linda, then you need to come next weekend and move fast. I don't see her still here, so.
Yeah, I
hopefully-
think she has to leave. Yeah, anyway, so,
Okay, all right, next.
okay, next is have investor go and point presentation. Have investor to go to and have every point to the presentation and people to have to trust you. Let's go back to building relationship to your base. And then when you have a deal, you present the deal to them. Okay.
Who is that from?
Army.
Okay,
yeah.
when we spoke to the real estate, okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. She want to know where, when and where the mastermind. I included link is July 30th and 31st, and then 8 weeks following that. Okay, there's a link in here, and then
Where is here in Rancho Santa Fe?
yeah, and then we
Beautiful
talk
Rancho Santa Fe.
about the cost.
Rancho Santa Fe.
Okay, and then the next question is: have any of you used self-directed IRAs to fund your capital needs? Yes, we have a lot of investors use their self-directed IRAs.
Yes.
Yes.
And we use it ourselves.
Yes. What
Yeah.
tips would you have to share to invest in storage units? Get educated and find somebody who's the storage expert. We're not storage expert, but I actually, Aaliyah, we have a
Yeah,
colleagues
Leah
and
and
friends.
Carrie. Leah
Yeah,
and Carrie.
that's storage.
Learn from them.
We
Yeah.
dubbed them the queen of storage.
Yeah, I just talked to Terry yesterday and saw Leah last weekend, so yeah. So let's get educated and then partner with,
Uh-huh.
and that they raise funds for all their, they raise funds and they raise capital for their store. So you want, again, if you work with somebody, either invest or work with them or partner with them or even intern with them, whatever way you can get involved. That way you can see it. You just got to experience it. And then that way it gives it, not only builds your confidence, but also builds your credibility because you're able to tell people, like people are going to say to you, well, what have you done before? Or have you ever invested before? Or have you been part of syndication before? And if the answer like, no, it's like, okay, so you want to be able to say, yes, I've participated in one, or I work with people that have, or you get some type of credibility.
Yeah. And
You're
then
talking about
next one.
people with money. In meantime, you're talking about a lot of money. So it's
Mhm.
really, I don't think it's too much to ask to know what you're doing.
Okay, and the next question is the last question. Live in Arizona. I am getting ready to purchase a 40-acre parcel of land. Can I have your information, please? Okay, I'll just put my information. You need to reach out.
Okay, so Bill, what closing statements do you have for everybody?
I don't know if it's a closing statement, but I don't know, man. If you see value, I think I mentioned it earlier, but I do think whether you're a real estate entrepreneur or any kind of entrepreneur, man, to me, this is the most valuable skill that you could be developing right now. Okay. And also from an economic standpoint, right? Because I think we're coming into a time here where a giant transfer of wealth will be happening this decade. And I think we're going to see a lot of disruption going on and a little bit more uncertainty, a little bit more chaos. And that's not meant to be fear mongering, because the way we see it, anytime there's disruption or anytime you hear the word recession or potential depression, right? There's a lot of that going on right now. But I think what all of us have to do is be able to hear those words, but reframe it and not get fearful, but start thinking, okay, recession equals opportunity. Recession equals great opportunities, great deals, clearance sale. Okay.
Exactly.
So whatever you do, man, yes, you should get your own financial house in order. Save up some money, build up your credit lines, get yourself in a position to take advantage of opportunities and fire sales. But the single most biggest, most impactful thing that you can do is to get a system down that allows you to aggregate capital, okay, quickly and consistently, because that out of everything else that you can do, because if you just rely on just your own self to just, I'm going to save as much money as possible, that's finite. That's going to run out pretty quick. But if you want to become, like Kimmie was talking about, how do you become unlimited? You learn this skill, you ingrain this system, because now numbers are irrelevant. Whether it's $1 million deal or a $10 million deal, if you have this system down, that becomes possible. And I'm telling you, the biggest wealth transfer in our lifetime will be happening this decade. And I'm encouraging each and every one of you, if it's not from us, go learn it from someone. Okay, because I'll be the first to acknowledge, we're not everyone's cup of tea. Okay, so if it's not from us, that's okay. All right, but learn it from someone. Okay, this is the greatest gift you can give to yourself. All right.
Agreed. And I think
Yeah.
that, I think all of us are educated enough to know that you've heard how many millions or how much magic happens when these times come, if they do come. So don't be steered off. And when people say to you, oh, what about this, about that, and so forth, if anyone's concerned about it, then they're not for you. But there's so many people that realize that there's nothing but opportunities right now. Opportunities for you to find the deals, find the projects, opportunities for you to build your capital, and people still have money. People that are going to just hold back, they'll have the money, and they will still invest in things because they want to be able to work their money. And we know the banks and all the other things are not getting stock markets, things of that type. It's a perfect time for you to be able to raise capital and go into something that's real estate, because whatever you're offering, whatever you're going to do, it looks great compared to the other options. So it's a perfect time to do that. Kimmie.
Yeah, I
Your
want to
closing
share.
statement.
Now, I don't know if a closing
Probably
statement,
got a
but
story.
I've been in the real estate industry for 17 years. And the reason why I got in real estate, because I want to be a real estate investor, right? So I'm thinking that by getting my real estate license, that I will be an investor. And then after spending so much time in the real estate industry, right? And then one day I sat there and I realized, you know what? If I had to start all over again, I would not get my real estate license. I would learn the skill set of aggregating capital. Okay, how to aggregate capital every corner, everywhere I can. Okay, and that's what I would focus on. And that's just my opinion. After I've been through get my license, it took me 2 years to finally get my license, go through, because I think that getting my license will help me, which it did. But the space that I want to be in now is, if I knew then what I knew now, I would just go focus on learning everything I can to know how to raise, to get private capital in general, okay? Because the moment when you become unlimited, the deal flow just come to you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, I think, and what's two things is, one of them is important. It's important. And a lot of real estate agents and brokers, a lot of them, I think it was 42% of them don't own their own home or don't own any investments or any real estate at all, which is one of the reasons that most realtors get involved in the business, so they can have access to those deals. But the second thing, can you imagine if 89, if I knew, I've heard the word syndication, it was always like the big unknown word to me, and had no idea that it's something that I could be participating in. Had I known the knowledge 10 years ago or 20 years ago, even 30 years ago, it would have made such a difference in my life. And that's why I encourage everybody to, whether you actually use it full time or not, even if you just use it for certain times, learn the skills that we want to activate it, you have it, because it could be applied for so many different things. And long-term wealth is through ownership in real estate. And like you said, you can only have so much money, no matter how much you have. Even the big guys, I mean, all the big situations, and whether the Trumps or the Murdochs, they all syndicate. They're all investors.
You all use OPM.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, other people's money. And all these tall buildings that we go in, office buildings and retail buildings and apartment buildings and all that good stuff, they're owned by syndications.
Yeah.
That the people that have invested in, they don't own them. One person usually don't own it all themselves. If they have the money, that's not the best use of their capital. They want to preserve it or extend it. So If now is the time, if you're interested now, if you're here now, then take advantage of it and learn the skill set and be able to use it because it's never too late.
So the moment when I believe that's what I wanted to do and I become a different person because I do whatever it takes. Because Bill can tell you, I don't like to be on video. Okay. I don't like to be out there, period. Okay. But the moment when I realized that, now I think it's fun. Every time I'm on video, when you hear yourself talk, I don't like to hear myself talking either. Because
Well,
you
you
gotta
do a
be out.
great job at it. You do a great job at it. And I thank you for
Because-
it.
Yeah, because if you're in this space, you got to figure out a way to reach people. Okay, there are many different platforms. You know that because Desiree teach the 7 to the power of 7, right? So there are many different ways you can reach your audience. Okay, it's just that we just happen to we have a podcast. Okay, we do a lot of videos, turn it into audios, but it took 3 years for Bill to finally get me to be on videos because I didn't like to be on videos. Okay. And I couldn't even listen to myself talking. Okay. But then when the moment when I realized that light bulb turned on, I make it fun. So it becomes really fun for me. Every time I get off, I'm like, oh, I could have done, you improve, you become better. It wasn't like, oh, you right out the bat, you know what to say, you know how to do it. No, it doesn't happen that way. But the moment when you understand that that's the skill set you want to build, okay, then it becomes, for me, it's like, it becomes fun.
And now we can't get you off of videos.
Yeah, I get a habit every time I go on Zoom, I turn on a video. Okay.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank everyone. I know it's getting late and some people have dinner ahead of them, but I just want to thank everyone. If there's no more questions, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. You'll have Kimmie's information in the chat. So make sure you save the chat before I close this. And I just want to thank you, thank you, thank you. And I encourage you and welcome you to participate. I hope I can see you next weekend here in Rancho Santa Fe. If not, make sure, if they're booked, make sure that you contact them and somehow either participate in whatever way you can. Yes?
Sounds
Yes?
great.
You gonna say good
Sounds
night?
great. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you all for
Bye-bye.
joining us. Thank you, Miss Desiree. This
Thank
was
you.
fun.
Thank you, everybody. So have a great evening. Look forward to seeing you soon. And remember, homework is where you can
Live where you work,
work where you live.
and something
anywhere.
else.
Live where
And
you
play,
work.
play, play.
Live where you work where you live, anywhere in the world.
That's what I meant to say.
We have to practice that. All right. Thanks again. Good night, everybody.
Thank y'all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you. See
Bye-bye.
ya.